In this lesson, you'll get familiarized with the commands, buttons, and work surface of Microsoft Streets and Trips. Install the Streets and Trips 2008 software following the instruction guide included with your program DVD. You'll need to have at least 1.6 gigabytes of disk space available on your hard drive, so you may want to confirm you've got the space before you begin. The user guide warns not to plug in the GPS receiver until after you have loaded the Streets and Trips software. If you do, or already did, not a problem. You'll just have to load the GPS driver manually. To do this, go to Streets and Trips Help and type in Troubleshoot using GPS receivers. Help provides an easy-to-follow instruction to load the driver manually, and it'll just take a minute. During installation, you'll be given the opportunity to load the Microsoft Windows Live toolbar. Learn more about it at toolbar.live.com and decide whether you want to include it. Additionally, you can choose to set Live Search as your Internet homepage and make Live Search your default search engine in Windows Internet Explorer. After you agree to license terms and decide whether to register now or later, you'll be asked if you want to set the default system voice to the one installed by Streets and Trips. My suggestion is choose Yes, but if you're running other applications that include text-to-speech, this choice will set the voice for those applications as well. If you want to change your system voice, use the text-to-speech application found in your computer's control panel. Before we can import the list we prepared in Lesson 3, we need to review the basic command features of Streets and Trips. The software sports several of the commands and functions you're familiar with in other Microsoft software, with many new ones that are specific to this application. I'm going to briefly touch on each item and then cover them in more detail when we're actually using them later on in the training. Getting familiar with these buttons and functions will help you later on as you begin to use the software. This is the default screen you'll see after first installing the software. The menu bar, toolbars, and Legend and Overview pane are active by default. There are 5 toolbars in Streets and Trips 2008. I'll turn them off and then introduce each one as I turn it back on. They include Standard, Navigation, Advanced, Drawing, and Location and Scale. You can see them by either clicking View Toolbars or right-clicking on the menu bar. As you've seen, toggle them on and off by clicking to the left of the toolbar title. For this training, I'm going to leave all 5 toolbars active. Like other Microsoft software programs, many of the toolbar button functions can be accessed from the program's menu bar. I'll focus on using the toolbars for the majority of the training, and will cover the few items that are only accessible from the menu bar as needed. Let's begin by looking at the standard toolbar. From left to right, the first 10 buttons are common to other Microsoft software programs. The New button opens up a new map. If you've added any data to the current map you're working on, like pushpins or drawings, you'll be asked if you want to save it before the new map is opened. Clicking Open retrieves a previously saved map. Clicking Save will save the current map. I'll cover saving maps in more detail in Lesson 8. The Print button prints your maps with the settings you've set up in the Print dialog box, which you access by clicking File from the menu bar, then Print. Depending on what you've got drawn on your map, you can print a simple map view, driving directions, turn-by-turn maps, strip maps, and more. There's several options for printing. However, this training doesn't emphasize printing a lot of paper, and rather than bog you down here, I include more detail on printing in the appendix. So please check it out when you have a need to print from Streets and Trips. The Page Setup button lets you set your default paper size, source, orientation, and print margins. Use the Cut button to cut away pushpin and drawing items that you've placed on the map and send them to your clipboard for later pasting. Likewise, select a map drawing object and hit the Copy button to create a copy on the clipboard. Whether cutting or copying, the Paste button is going to paste the last object I cut or copied back onto the map. Note that the object will be pasted in the same place it was originally located, even if you've reoriented your map. So if you create two squares, paste the second square, then move it off the first to see both. These are the Undo and Redo buttons. As advertised, they undo and redo actions you've performed on your map. Other than the Help button, that's it for familiar Microsoft command buttons on the standard toolbar. The rest of these are unique to Streets and Trips. The Legend and Overview button toggles the Legend and Overview pane on and off. Use the Find Nearby Places button to find restaurants, hotels, and all kinds of useful places on your map, not the least being the location of prospects from your imported list. Route Planner toggles the Route Planner pane on and off. The Directions button toggles the Printed Directions window on and off. This is the Locate Me button. Clicking this button will check to see if a Wi-Fi connection is available. It will then check a database of known access points and place your position centered on the map based on that access point. We'll use the Import Data Wizard button to import and map the prepared prospect list in the next lesson. Clicking a place on the map, and then Show Information will open up that point's dialog box so that you can view information associated with that item. Search on Live Search toggles on a new search bar that allows you to query the internet via Windows Live for business or category information and map it based on your current map zoom level. Of course, you'll need a connection to the internet to use this feature. Clicking Show in Live Maps when connected to the internet will go out to Microsoft's Live Search Maps web application and return an aerial photograph at your current map zoom level. No kidding. We'll see Live Search Maps in action in Lesson 6. You can toggle your drawing and location and scale toolbars on and off with these two buttons. This is the Help button for accessing Microsoft Streets and Trips Help. The next toolbar we're going to look at is the Navigation toolbar. This is the GPS Task Pane button. It toggles the pane on and off. You'll use this button for in-vehicle navigation on the road during Lesson 11. The Driving Guidance pane button toggles driving guidance on and off when you've got a route planned on your map. When following a route, the Full Screen Map View button turns the entire screen into a map, with detailed driving instructions shown at the bottom. This button is grayed out now because it's only accessible when the GPS receiver is active and a route has been planned. We'll discuss the Full Screen Map View in more detail in Lesson 11. This is the Connected Services pane button. To use this option, you need to be running Microsoft Streets and Trips 2008 with Connected Services software. The Connected Services feature provides real-time traffic updates in selected cities and is not covered in this training. The next toolbar we're going to look at is the Advanced toolbar. Again, moving from left to right. This is the Back button, not to be confused with the Undo button we looked at on the standard toolbar. Much like your Internet Explorer browser, the Back button will let you view maps you've looked at previously. Clicking the Forward button will move you forward to maps you've viewed. The Back and Forward buttons only move you between map views. They don't undo actions. This is the Find a Location search box. Type in a place or address with as much information as you have, and Streets and Trips will plot the location or present you with a listing of the most likely suspects. For instance, if I type in Hot Springs, I'm presented with a choice for the various towns across the U.S. that go by that name. Clicking the triangle presents a drop-down list of previous searched locations. This is the zoom and scale. Clicking the minus magnify glass will zoom the map out. Clicking the plus will zoom in. You can also use the horizontal scroll bar to quickly zoom in and out. Do this by clicking and holding on the pointer and moving to the left to zoom out and right to zoom in. You can also click on the scale to automatically move out and in. Notice that when you hover over the scale, it shows the current zoom altitude. And here's an additional tip. Use the plus and minus keys on your keyboard for a quick zoom. Use the Select Tool button to select items in your map, as well as quickly zoom in to a specific area. To do this, click, hold, and drag to draw a rectangle, and then click inside it to execute the zoom. The size of the rectangle you draw determines how fine you zoom in. The Pan tool also allows you to select map items, as well as move the map within the window. Note that you can also move the map around by placing your cursor close to the edge of the map window until it turns into a block arrow. Clicking will move your map view in that direction. Finally, on the Advanced toolbar is the Map Choice drop-down list. You'll probably spend the majority of your time on the road map, but you can choose the terrain map, a political map, and for night driving, the night driving map. If you've used Microsoft PowerPoint, you're probably familiar with many of the buttons on the next toolbar, the Drawing toolbar. Click the Draw button to show its list of functions that lets you choose how an item is arranged in the map. I've drawn a line to activate Draw button options. One feature you haven't seen before is the Show Size option. If you've drawn an element on the map, it allows you to toggle the size label on and off. To delete a drawn element, click to highlight it and hit Delete on your keyboard. Click the Create Pushpin button to turn your cursor into a pushpin placement tool. Move your cursor to the spot where you want to place your pushpin and click again. Click in the pushpin header to name it. Clicking the down triangle gives you many pushpin type options. You can even create your own pushpin designs from a bitmap picture. Check out the appendix for more detail on creating your own pushpins. To delete a pushpin, click to highlight and hit Delete on your keyboard. Clicking the Highlight button turns your cursor into a crosshair. Click and hold on the map to draw freehand. Release to draw a straight line, and click once to change direction. When you've completed your drawing, double-click to turn the highlighter off. Remember, you can toggle the size on and off using the Draw button. Another way to highlight a point on the screen is to select it, then right-click the mouse and choose Highlight. The next three buttons are the Scribble, Line, and Arrow buttons. Clicking them again turns your cursor to a crosshair. Click, hold, and drag to draw. Releasing the mouse button will stop your line. The Freeform button works just like the highlighter. You need to double-click to end your drawing. The next two buttons are the rectangle and oval buttons. Click, hold, and drag. While pressing the Shift key, we'll draw proportional squares and circles. Choose the Radius button and click, hold, and drag to draw a circle with a radius measure around a point. This is the Text Box button. Click, hold, and drag to create a text box on your map. It's important to note that the box and its associated text do not scale with the rest of the map when zooming. The next 5 buttons on the drawing toolbar are Fill, Line and Text Color, Line Style, and Arrow Style. Just highlight the object you've created and change its appearance with the appropriate button. The final toolbar is the Location and Scale toolbar. It's another method for moving around the map and always includes the appropriate map scale for your view altitude. Notice as you zoom in, the toolbar provides you with successively more detailed results. You can jump out to different view altitudes by clicking on the bar. Remember, to see previously viewed maps, use the back button. There's a few more items that are worth mentioning that aren't associated with the toolbar. Generally, right-clicking will give you access to many of the toolbar and menu functions, and you might find this makes working with Streets and Trips even faster at times. Besides changing the kind of map you use, you'll also have some options on how map data is presented to you. For instance, clicking View Map Font will allow you to change the size of the font. Going to Tools, Options allows you to designate kilometers instead of miles, how coordinates are handled, how GPS pane and navigation screens are shown, and how directions data is displayed. You can spend some time here and customize to your liking. To quickly measure a distance, go to Tools, Measure Distance. Your cursor turns into a crosshair. Click, hold, and drag to measure, and double-click to end measurement. That completes our overview of the Microsoft Streets and Trips interface. Check out the Appendix section for a few less frequently used menu items that you may find useful from time to time. In this lesson, we got familiarized with the 5 toolbars and other aspects of the Streets and Trips 2008 software interface. In the next lesson, we'll learn how to import the prospect list we prepared to create our territory map.